Hey, what's up everybody, Commander Radix here bringing you another episode of Transformers Lore. And you know what? Lately I've been really looking into something called Warhammer 40k. Now Warhammer 40k is a grim, dark, sort of miniature fighting game thing. Frankly, as much as I've looked into Warhammer 40k, I still don't understand it. However, what I do understand is that, man, it's dark. You have like this broken down, like, evil version of mankind fighting against evil gods in this warped hole in the universe, and like they're fighting like these almost Lovecraftian type beings, and it's like, wow. And I'm thinking, you know what, why doesn't Transformers have some creepy, like, void in space populated by an eldritch god type deal? But then I remembered, oh wait, they do. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about the D-Void, who appeared in the IDW Hasbro universe, that is Primax 1005.19 Gamma. However, the D-Void isn't a native of Primax 1005.19 Gamma, rather the D-Void is from another universe that doesn't really have a trans-tech notation to it, but is more colloquially called the Dead Universe. Ooh. So Radix, what is the Dead Universe? Well, if you've seen my Transformers lore episode on Transformers Revelation, you can check that out and see a story involving the Dead Universe, but the Dead Universe is ultimately, it's a parallel universe to Primax 1005.19 Gamma that is dead. As in, somehow all the energy of that universe was sucked out. Later on we find out that that is exactly what happened. It's a complicated story, but Shockwave in the year 2014 stole all the energy from the Dead Universe at its beginning point in time, which turned it into a dead universe where entropy sort of is the only force to really speak of. But long story short, it's a universe that was killed by Shockwave and entered this sort of entropic state. Now, what is weird about the Dead Universe is that it has a sentient mind. This is interesting, the idea that universes themselves have a sort of sentience to them, which is something you don't really see in Transformers lore. It would be interesting to see if that was the case in other universes besides the Dead Universe, but the Dead Universe has a sentience that we call the D-Void. Now, we didn't always used to call it the D-Void. In fact, it was introduced to us in the form of something called the Darkness. See, in the ancient past of Primax 1005.19 Gamma, Nova Prime and his close followers, including G-Axis, Galvatron, that whole cohort, was exploring the universe and also sort of running away from their terrible experimentations on Cybertron, because Omega Supreme wanted to punish them. That's a whole nother story for another day. But on the Arc 1, Nova Prime and his cohorts were traveling through space, going through something called the Benzuli Expanse, and found a planet called Gorlem Prime. Now, Gorlem Prime is an interesting planet because it was seeded by an ore, a regenesis ore called Ore 2. We will talk about the Regenesis program in another video. Long story short, these are the different types of energon Shockwave created. Shockwave's linked in a lot of ways to this, and to a lot of problems in the IDW universe. But Shockwave made different types of energon to try to refuel Cybertron after the Great War, and all these different forms of energon developed different characteristics. Ore 2, this Regenesis ore of Energon, was an ore of death, and as death, it opened up a portal to the Dead Universe on the planet of Gorlem Prime. And the Dead Universe, through its sentience, the D-Void, wanted to enter into Primax 1005.19 Gamma to sort of kill it, to eat it in a way. Because the Dead Universe is just a being of entropy that just wants to consume and consume and consume. Not unlike a bug man. But while the Arc 1 was passing by the Benzuli Expanse, the D-Void was able to contact subconsciously Nova Prime. And Nova Prime eventually entered the Dead Universe, became bonded to the Dead Universe along with his cohort of like Galvatron, G-Axis, and the D-Void gave Nova Prime something called the Darkness, which turned him into Nemesis Prime. It's sort of similar to the Matrix. Now, we later find out that the darkness is itself a fragment or a piece or the essence of the D-Void. So the D-Void is acting through the darkness to influence Transformers in Primex 1005.19 Gamma to unite Primex 1005.19 Gamma to the dead universe so it can consume it. This is something called the Expansion. And the whole plot of Transformers Revelation was Nemesis Prime trying to bring about the Expansion. However, Nemesis Prime is defeated by Optimus Prime, Galvatron betrays Nemesis Prime and takes the darkness for himself, but is then thrown into a solar pool. Expansion fails, the end. However, later on, Galvatron is going to emerge from the solar pool, having united with the darkness, which he now calls the Heart of Darkness, and the D-Void is sort of calling out to Galvatron subconsciously. Now, Galvatron does not trust the D-Void. He encounters the D-Void face-to-face, as much as face-to-face can be called, when we're dealing with the sentience of a universe. And Galvatron decided that the D-Void must be stopped no matter the cost. He was planning to destroy the D-Void, and his plan involved using the Vector Sigma. That is literally Primus in Cybertron. Now the problem with this is Galvatron thinks he's thinking for himself when in reality he's being possessed by the D-Void through the Heart of Darkness. It's really part of the Heart of Darkness's scheme, the D-Void scheme, to unite himself to Primus and through Primus consume the universe. This is basically the plot of the whole Chaos War in the Primex 1005.19 Gamma timeline, where the Autobots are able to defeat Galvatron, the Decepticons try a little rebellion during this point in time, and for some reason, the D-Void is able to subconsciously call out to all Decepticons and combine into one form that is basically doing the D-Void's will. The name of this combined form is Deceptigod. So during the Chaos War, the Deceptigod, which is a combined form of all Decepticons controlled by the D-Void, combined, tried to stop the Autobots from stopping the D-Void. However, ultimately, Galvatron does get the Heart of Darkness into Primus, into the Vector Sigma, but Optimus Prime is able to purify it with the Matrix of Leadership and destroy the Heart of Darkness. Presumably, this also means that the D-Void was destroyed. Maybe. When we next see the Dead Universe, which is during the Dark Cybertron event, the Dead Universe is slowly collapsing until it ultimately fully collapses and stops being. It turns into void, it collapses. So even if the D-Void didn't die in the Chaos War, it was certainly dead by the time the Dead Universe itself collapsed in the Dark Cybertron event. The D-Void has a lot of questions attached to it, a lot of implications to it. One, that a universe can be sentient, right? What does that mean? What does that look like? And also, why was the D-Void able to call out subconsciously to all Decepticons and make them combine into Deceptigod? Decepticons in the IDW universe was a political affiliation. It wasn't any sort of genetic factor involved, like how it would be in Marvel or perhaps the Unicron trilogy. The Autobots seem to have not really been affected by it. Drift, who was once a Decepticon named Deadlock, was affected by it, and he basically had to commit seppuku to stop himself from uniting into Deceptigod. A lot of questions about the D-Void and his connection to the Decepticons, because it's weird how he's able to do that. But that wraps up this Transformers lore episode on the D-Void, which is basically Transformers' version of the Warhammer 40k Chaos Gods, right? Living in a warp in deep space that wants to destroy and consume everything. There we go. I'm actually really interested in the D-Void. I just really wish a lot was made more clear what it meant. Any theories from you guys as to why the D-Void was able to call out to Decepticons, even Autobots who stopped being Decepticons in the case of Drift? Put your theories, your comments below in the comments section. But that's going to wrap up this episode of Transformers Lore. I hope you enjoyed. Consider subscribing to this channel for more Transformers lore and more nerdy content in the future. Check out my history channel, Radix the Lore Keeper, if you're into real life lore, real history, real mythology, real lore. Follow me on social media, all links are in the description, and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.